Oh, hello, this is Tak Chung from Walk with Tak. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share. Feel free to write to me at walkwithtak@gmail.com if you have any question regarding to this video or any other videos that I've posted in the past. Now, recently a viewer wrote to me and she asked me about oyster sauce. And she said you use oyster sauce in almost all your dishes. Why you like oysters so much? So with my fast cooking system, I have 4 attributes, that is flavor chasing, advanced wrapping, stir frying, and tempeh-based cooking. And in order to create the flavor that I would like, I try to make it as simple as possible. And I use a method which I refer to flavor chasing. And the simpler that you can create the flavor you like, the more spontaneous that you will when you come to home cooking. Simplicity turned out to be really a great virtue when it comes to home cooking. When things are simple, it's more likely for you going to cook more often. Now, there are many different ways to season your dish. When I was growing up, I remember that oyster sauce is a fixture in almost all kitchens. Everybody used oyster sauce. And at the time, I really did not have too much knowledge about oyster sauce. It was not only until I started with my cooking class, I realized that I use oyster sauce a lot, and I start to ask the question why I like oyster sauce so much. Now, oyster sauce actually has a very interesting history, and oyster sauce today is found in almost every supermarket that you go to. And the oyster sauce that are frequently that you will find is a brand known as Lee Kum Kee, and it has a pandas on the surface of the bottle. And this Lee Kum Kee oyster sauce is the most prominent oyster sauce that is available. Now, I use this oyster sauce extensively. I use it in almost all my dishes. And the reason that it is an extremely flexible sauce. It allows you to create many different types of flavor in combination with other types of sauces. However, to me and to many people, this is referred to as the foundation sauce. And the reason for that is that when you use this sauce, it can almost accommodate most of the dishes that you cook, whether it's vegetable, whether it's protein, and it can be beef, pork, chicken, or shrimp. All of this seems to fit very well with this sauce. So I put it in a squeeze bottle so I can dispense it readily. Now, the history of oyster sauce is interesting. It comes from a province in the southern part of China known as Guangdong Province. Now, the major city of Guangdong Province is known as Guangzhou, which used to call Canton when China is under foreign control, and that's where Cantonese food comes from. Now, oyster sauce comes from this area, and you can actually make your own oyster sauce, and the recipe is very simple. Basically, is that you take oysters and then you make it with soy sauce, and that's what you get. Now, it was by legend that oyster sauce was discovered by a person by the name of Lee Kum Shin, and which eventually he created a company called Lee Kum Kee. He was boiling some oyster soup. Oyster was abundant in that part of the China, and people used to make soup. And he cooked them much longer than he expected, and it turned into a sauce. And the sauce turned out to be an absolutely wonderful way for using for stir frying. And eventually, in about 1888, he established a company called Lee Kum Kee, and this company started to commercialize this oyster sauce, and it became extremely popular in southern part of China. And for a long time, oyster sauce is more restricted in southern part of China. Since I grew up in Hong Kong, it is greatly influenced by the cuisine of the Guangdong province. The end result is that oyster sauce mainly popular in that part of the world. In fact, Lee Kum Kee in time moved to Hong Kong, and it became a Hong Kong company. Of course, now it is a global company. Oyster sauce is now available to almost everywhere around the world. In Asian kitchens, whether it is Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Vietnam, all of this part of the country that are using this type of flavor, oyster sauce become the kitchen staple. In a way, you can imagine oyster sauce is like a ketchup instead of using as a dipping sauce, oyster sauce is being used for stir frying. Now there are two different versions of oyster sauce. When I was growing up, there's a version of oyster sauce looks like this. In fact, this particular brand still exists, and it has a fisherman on the surface of on the bottle, and they have oysters, which showing them they are actually collecting oysters. However, today, the most common brand or the version that are created is the one with the Panda on it. Both of them are produced by Lee Kum-kee. The Panda version is that there are less oyster extract. There are more other type of seasoning, basically to create a similar flavor that is in the original brand. Now you can still buy the classic brand, which is a little bit more expensive, but in terms of flavor, I don't think there's a whole lot of difference. Now when you come to use oyster sauce, it basically is that you don't need to use very much. Again, it depends on very much the type of dish that you are cooking. With vegetables, you might only use a very small amount because vegetables already have great flavor in themselves. However, when you cook with meat, you might want to use a little bit more. So the combination depends very much on the type of stir-fry dishes that you're making. And this is the reason why oyster sauce is so popular, because you can adjust it according to what you need. And the end result is that it can fit into almost any type of dishes. And this is the reason why today oyster is so popular. Now, oyster sauce has also other distinct advantage. Oyster sauce can be combined to use with other type of sauces. And oyster sauce, when it combined with other sauces, can create some of the classical flavor that we frequently find in stir-fry dishes. And because of this reason, many people use oyster sauce as a foundational sauce, and then they will add other sauces over it. And this process frequently known as layering, which means that you layer different type of sauces one on top of each other to create a more complex flavor texture. And here is a flavor profile which, by combining oyster sauce with hoisin sauce, this will create a classic flavor of teriyaki. Now, teriyaki can be created in many different ways. Teriyaki is originated from Japan, and they use a different type of approach. But in oyster sauce, you can create a flavor very similar to the original teriyaki flavor. But it's much simpler. All you have to do is to use this sauce, and you can combine them and create different type of flavor. Now, oyster sauce can be also used in combination with other type of sauces as well. And here is a sauce that frequently known as the fried chili in oil sauce. You can combine it with soy sauce, dark and light soy sauce, and then you can also combine it with sriracha sauce. And then you can also use commercially available sauces such as sweet and sour sauce and such as teriyaki sauce, or even with the Panda Express orange sauce. And the end result, as you can see, is that oyster sauce can be used as a foundational sauce, and by using various amount, you can create different type of flavor by using it just alone. But then you can also layer other type of sauces. A friend of mine used oyster sauce, and he will layer 2 or 3 different kind of sauces over it. And each time he creates slight different combinations. And this is what makes stir frying such a powerful and effective cooking method, because it gives you a lot of flexibility. You can adapt it to many different type of dishes, and the end result is that to give you tremendous amount of possibilities. The variations will allow you to adjust to different type of food ingredients that you want to cook. And in here, an example is that I am combining some with dark soy sauce and create, again, a very different flavor. I remember when I was growing up, I clearly can recognize the profile of oyster sauce. In those days, people used oyster sauce sparingly because it is expensive. And in fact, most of the time, soy sauce is the predominant sauce. But once you add oyster sauce to the dish, it will change the flavor profile. It make it more distinctive, more savory. So each time when I have a dish, personally, I can tell right away whether somebody put oyster sauce in it or they don't. Now, this is a good way, in a way, to enhance your sensitivity of your palate for you to recognize different type of dishes. So I hope this helped you to provide you with an understanding. I urge you to try to experiment with oyster sauce in different type of dishes. I post a video each day, and the goal is that to help you to make home cooking as part of your daily routine, because when you cook every day yourself, you will get the greatest benefit from home cooking. So if you'd like to learn more about my fast cooking system, please subscribe to this YouTube channel. And with the fast cooking system, you will find that with flavor chasing, advanced peppering, stir frying, and template-based cooking will greatly enhance your cooking potentials. So keep on cooking, and I will see you tomorrow.